Let's first start with Jung Jae-hon. Jung Jae-hon is a Korean modern architect who makes projects all over South Korea. In a quick list, we tried to talk about a few characteristics which you can see immediately by analyzing a lot of projects of him. Maybe to start, in all his buildings we can see that he's known for pure shapes and his research about materiality. What do his houses have in common? First of all, as we can see in these examples, all the buildings are more or less horizontally shaped and have a continuous flow, which is also this link with the landscape and with the space he uses. Then we can go on the second point to talk about the rectangular shapes, the basic volumes, which is kind of linear and minimalist. So easy forms, not spectacularly shaped buildings. Sometimes they are stacked, sometimes you just find a cube, as in these examples. Then we can talk about the simple materiality. So for almost all his projects, he's using really, really basic materiality. For instance, stone, a lot of different stones. Whereas we can see here a lot of examples where he uses red brick, but also concrete or lighter stones. But in other examples, we can say that he's, for example, mixing up wood with stones. Everything is in basic colors in order to guarantee, again, the simplicity of the project. Then another really remarkable characteristic is that he's playing a lot with open and closed spaces. So in almost all his projects, we see this notion of the courtyard. Here he plays a bit with the lighting, of course, but also in some of his projects, especially in big cities, the courtyard is kind of a calm space in contrast to the surrounding. Kind of a meeting point. Yep, and the fifth point is then again this landscape link, which is the connection with the nature. That's why for the bigger projects, and we're gonna see it a bit more in detail, there's always kind of a part of the work where he considers a landscape architect. So then we can maybe talk about the exhibition he did. It's called, maybe that's really important to know, is that Jung Jae-hon was studying in France and in Korea. So he kind of grew up with this Western architecture and soon wanted to create, or he was questioning the link between Western and Korean architecture. So the exhibition he made was called Point contre Point, Trajectories of 10 Korean Architects. So in the pictures you can see here, these are examples of exhibited things. For instance, he took projects of himself. Let's see, projects who seem to be a little westernized, but in the context of Korea. Also, to see this model, this is a French architect who was exposed and who was also kind of exploring this difference in architecture. So, what is this exhibition talking about? First of all, it traces a series of parallels between the materiality and the form of the Korean architecture and the global concept. It's about the development from the year 1975 and until 2000. And it's all about these interactions and the transformation about small houses in Seoul. Yeah, that's a bit the idea behind it. It also should talk about the cultural transfer. Let's move on to IMS architects. IMS is a studio which is quite known for its approach with the material as a basis of architecture. The architecture has natural materials such as wood and artificial materials such as polymers. Natural materials have been used in the past, and artificial materials have been used relatively recently. ISM wants to open in new sections of old materials, and but also open the innovative future of new materials. The material is a relationship between light and detail and nothing less. So IMS wants to focus on the light that opens a new visibility on the material. It intends to focus on the detail that opened the new construction of the material. The system is the body of the architecture. The system is a set of building components associated with certain laws to achieve the purpose of architecture. The construction includes various systems such as the space system, the cortex system, the structure system, the equipment system, and so on. The goals of ISM are a system that ensures the continuity of people and environments and the environment. Systems can be organized to optimize energy efficiency, and systems can be designed to span multiple time zones in terms of regeneration. IMS aims to organize a new system by analyzing the objectives and real condition of each project. The IS Architectural Institute intends to introduce new styles by creating an innovative architecture through the exploration of materials and system experimentation. Let's start with a project. It's called Samdaehan. It was built relatively recently, 2012, in Buyegun in South Korea. Yeah. Pangkyur is an emerging residential district located at the south of Seoul. Young architects, like for example, in this case, it's a couple of young architects and their parents want to live there together because the architecture couple needs assistance with their kids, and the elder, they need physical and psychological assistance due to the father's aggravating Parkinson's disease. There were three objectives with this middle-class house. First, propose an alternative way of living to a nuclear family living. Second, suggest an experimental house of healing for silver generation. Third, offer a logical architectural solution in the most recent suburban town of Pangkyur. Samdaehan 3-generation house was launched in 2011 to meet these three objectives. At these schemes, you can see a bit the evolution, the development of the volumes who are kind of stacked into each other, and who still keep a really simple and basic volumetry. To overcome the generational difference in the three-generation family, the space separation strategy was important as a program unification strategy, particularly between in-laws. Age and physical conditions led the section classification of the program. Parents couple on the first floor, architects couple on the second floor, and kids on the attic floor. Family public events were limited to weekend meals and weekday dinners. Second objective of the project was to focus on the father's worsening walking incapability. ISM proposed a transport living room. The living room sits as a pivot spot of pedestrian alley and interior courtyard. Intent was bring seasonal changes of outside inside by extensive use of glass, thereby maximizing the view of people and trees. This would allow the sick father to enjoy outside sitting inside. For this, like for a whole window project, a triple glazing curtain wall system was used. Also, you can see all those opening very well in the elevation and in the plan, the pedestrian alley. Now, the third object of this project was to provide architecturally logical solution in a fairly new town of Pankyo. ISM differentiated public side from the private side. On the public side of the building, as S-panels were articulated in dark brick massing. Dark bricks were used in the nearby historical citadel of Suwon. On the private side of the house, terraces successfully minimized the volume of the building and correspondingly served public space of each floor. In addition, the terrace volume profile was an outcome of maximum solar gain during winter time. Here in this scheme, you can see this connection between public and private, and inside and outside. Since Korean War, a two-generation family living in a high-rise condo was a dominant way of living in Korea. Three-generation family living is anti-ethical to this stance. Samdaehan is a sociologic and architectural experiment. Proposing a three-generation house and a transparent living room is against the common culture of Korea. The story of Samdaehan received wide media attention in Korea. Here you can see the interior finish, the wood flooring, as well as the paint on the gypsum wallboard, and the wood paneling. So we can see really bright rooms who are open to the outside and still guarantee comfort. Last but not least, let's talk about Yoho Architects. The Yoho Architectural Office is composed of Young-hoon Lee and the collaborators such as DPLG in France and the architects KIRA of Korea. Known to have won many awards since 2006, for architectural projects such as Nine Bridges Pergola, the Waving Stone, or the L platform, they are based on a philosophy in its own right. Interpreting architecture as a part of the humanities, Yoho Architecture bases their philosophy on creating a new identity and discourse in contemporary cities. In addition, architectural materials are set as a unit of geometry, and designs are developed through the grouping, addition, and subtraction of these units. This materialmetry refers to the reinterpretation of materials, meaning within the context of a site. Let's talk about the project's 9 bridges. This is a kind of also a recent project completed in 2010 in Jeju-do. It's a clubhouse, and it's composed of a steel-framed structure. The pergola of the golf club at 9 Bridges is a structure built on a location that honors an old sacred tree. The Chinese hackberry, which stood for roughly 600 years before the present golf course was constructed, unconsciously instead a place of animism. The pergola rearranges the site in accordance with the orientation of an aged tree and finds its project motifs in natural algorithms. Inspired by the essential structures of natural algorithms, they have devised a dual duct system that integrates both the structure and the facility. The inner duct is used for ventilation and wrapped with a 12 mm thick steel frame to form the overall structure. The two ducts are covered with highly dense insulating material in between to prevent dew condensation from indoor-outer temperature difference when operating cooling and heating systems. To proceed now with the comparison analysis, we first analyze the first question about what are the similarities and differences in organization of the site plan and the space layout. To start with Jung Jae-hon, we can say that he works with extremely simple and basic forms. Often the building shape has a letter shape, for example an L or an U. The most remarkable thing about his architecture is probably the use of courtyards. For ISM, in this case the Yuldong project, the building follows the exact form of the site. For the Samdaehong project, the plan is, due to a lot of window openings, quite open. The simple form follows the needs of the owners. Last but not least, for the Yoho, the buildings of the Yoho office, they are working a bit in a different way. Comparing to the other architects, the forms are less rational and more experimental, as for example the curving house with its quite organic form. For the second question, what are the similarities and difference in use of materials? We kind of analyzed the three different architecture. So Jung Jae-hon used the rough material in order to keep the simplicity inside and outside, and to keep the same atmosphere. Most of the time he's working with red brick and concrete, as you can see in the pictures. He's not really, he's combining sometimes wood with stone, but all in one he keeps simplicity. ISM, like we said before, consider the material as a really important part in the concept. They use old and new materials in a way to rediscover it in different ways. For example, the pattern research for the bricks in the Yuldong Cafe. For Yoho architects, materials are set as unit of geometry, and designs are developed through the grouping, addition and subtraction of these units. This materialmetry refers to the reinterpretation of materials' meaning within the context of a site. To talk about question 3, what are the similarities and differences in movement and experience of space? We can say that in terms of movement and experience of space, Jung Jae-hon is applying continuous horizontal building shapes in order to create a link with the landscape and favorize circulation through the buildings, especially for the Oryukto Gavon Cafe. For both projects, he's using the courtyard as an additional light source and a possibility to open up the building to the inside and break often the kind of massive stone constructions. For ESM and their Yuldong project, one facade contains the staircase and leads to the roof terrace. So the circulation area is simple and clear. And in order to avoid closeness to the road, the setback regulation from the road width is used. For Samdaehong, the whole building is modified, opened and closed in order to create private and more public spaces. Yoho again goes the more extraordinary way. The organic forms are inspired of the natural environment and the assembly of the different spaces and the surrounding topography. This system is in this case used for both projects. If we have a look at question 4, what are the group findings? We can say that we kind of had the same opinion about the projects. We agree that the relation to the context is the main goal to the three architects, and that in all the projects we see how it affects the concept. Also, materiality is researched and regarded as really important. but stay mainly concrete, steel brick and glass, and even if the way they are used is different to each architect, they all agree on the smooth simplicity for the residential inside. White wall and wooden floor. The styles are really different when Yoho seems to be the most experimental and Zhangjian the most regional. ESM plays with volumes and materiality to express interesting intentions and has always different shapes of windows.